First, I wanted to say just had an anniversary last week. Um, it was the anniversary of the 6th year since I had the shot that paralyzed me. So I didn't have a party, didn't have a cake, didn't have any treats or presents or anything like that. Just lived through it. It hit. I had the shot. 6 years ago. I barely remember it. No, I don't. I remember it well, but I don't want to remember it. So if I forget it, that'd be fine with me too. So anyway, 6th anniversary, yay! Next month or November will be the 6th anniversary of when I was last able to walk. Because it took about a month for the shot to completely paralyze me. It just had effect, immediately right away. But it just took about, it took a month before it totally took away my ability to walk and other stuff. But anyway, uh, on the other side, the SRNA, which is the Siegel Rare Neural um, Autoimmune Association, they published one of my short stories that I've been writing and talking to you guys about. And that one was The Walker. That was one about the boy. There's one about a boy who, um, a million years in the future, everybody's in the wheelchair and he can walk. So everybody considers him to be handicapped. So they liked the way it talked about what being disabled was like. They thought it was explained what the life was like, and so they published it just yesterday, day before. You can find it if you go on the SRNA website and look for it if you want to find it there. So anyway, about a couple weeks before that, they had another blog that came out where it was a bio of one of their employees um, named Lee Campbell, who's a lady, and she has something called neuromyelitis optica disorder. Mine is called, it's got myelitis in it as too. It's transverse myelitis. So hers has optica added to that, and neuro because it has more to do. I mean, it has more to do with her, or as much to do with her eyesight as it does with anything else. She got it when she was 10 years old, and she's she's blind and paralyzed, and it got me thinking about another one of my short stories, where, in fact, this is a short story that starts off my collection that I'm trying to find an agent and publisher for, where a squirrel gives a paraplegic person the option of being paralyzed or being blind. And for her to have both of these things and to have lived with it for like 35 years, and I just couldn't. When I was writing that short story, I was questioning, if I was given that option of being blind, or being paralyzed, which one would I go with? And so I was really thinking about it. So then for that article that she wrote to come out and say that she has both of these things here, which I didn't even consider that when I wrote that. But she accomplishes things. I mean, she works for them. She's their community support coordinator, and she's got a bachelor's degree. She works with things like the Christopher Reeve Foundation and Every Life Foundation. Here's a person that just has it worse than I do. I mean, when I try to, because I feel sorry for myself all the time, because I can't do a lot of the things I used to be able to do. But here's somebody that's living with something far worse. I mean, I couldn't imagine, what her life is like. I'm thinking, maybe I can somehow reach out and talk to her someday, since we're both been published in there and she's an employee there. But it got me thinking a little bit about Helen Keller. Here's a lady. She had bacterial meningitis when she was like 19 months old, and she was, made her blind and deaf, and she couldn't communicate. She didn't know how to talk, and she was just out of control as a child. We didn't know what to do with her, how to handle her, and then some guy, you might have heard of him, Alexander Graham Bell. You ever heard of that guy? Um, he found out about it, and he suggested to the parents that they put her for a school for the blind in Boston. And when she got there, she had a teacher, an instructor, who was also had blindness, and she taught her. She taught her to read Braille. She taught her how to communicate. Like she could touch somebody's lips with her fingers and sometimes tell what they're saying, and and she took that and she became the first deaf blind person to graduate from college. Amazing. She went to college and she was an author of 12 books. She's a speaker internationally. She would go to many different countries, and I don't know how she communicated in her speaking, but she did. Actually, now I'm kind of curious. How did she communicate on that? But anyway, she had a life, So even though these two people, I admire what they're able to do, especially when I cry and moan and groan about what happened to me. Here, I can move my arms, I can do that, I can talk, I can see, I can hear, and so I have many advantages they don't have. So I think about what I can't do. I can't move my legs. So back in the old days, you know, 7 years ago, I could have kicked you in the face. I don't care how tall you are. You could have been an NBA player. I could have kicked you in the face. There's one thing, I was pretty good at karate. And, now can't even move my legs, or walk, well, go back to walking. I was a runner, in fact, I found out that my 440 time in high school if was faster than the world record for women, the world record for women and things. So I was a pretty good runner, even though that was not my favorite sport to do. I went out for track because I was actually a baseball player, and I moved to Michigan, and I was a good baseball player. I made the All-Star team all the time, and had trophies and things. Met Brooks Robinson, because I was playing third base when a bunch of Orioles came, and Orioles, see this here? Some Orioles came to work with us for a day, and I wore number 5 and played third base, so I got to meet Brooks Robinson and kind of work with him for a day. So I would tell people, Brooks Robinson taught me how to play baseball. But I was good at baseball, and when I moved to Michigan, some kids there, it's just my first year at high school. They said that if the coaches didn't know you, and then you wouldn't make the team. So I went out for a track because I'm either faster than you or I'm not. So I ended up running track. And to this day, I kind of sort of wish I would have at least tried baseball, because I went into softball. I was Class A softball. There are trophies and things all over the basement from that. So I was very good at it, and I just never did it in high school. I regret that. But anyway, other things that I can't do. I can't use a toilet without assistance. I have to pay a caregiver to come out and help me with toiletry. I can't pry open a container, a box of cereal very easy. Getting that plastic apart, my hands don't work well. So I can do it, but it's a wrestling match, to be able to get it open. And sometimes I have to bail out and get a pair of scissors because my hands just don't have the grip strength to do it. I can't, if there's a weed in my garden, I can just sit out there just going, hey, Norm, yeah, you can't get me, can you? I'm going to grow another. You know what? I'm going to have a whole bunch of weeds out here. So I have to hire somebody to deal with the weeds. I go out and get them myself. So I can't swim. When this hit me, I was still swimming competitively on master swimming. And when I was 60 years old, and I could still swim the length of a football field in under 60 seconds. So I was still a very, very good swimmer. And so this I could write left-handed. I was ambidextrous, but I was predominantly left-handed writing. And now I can't, my left hand is so screwed up, I can't write left-handed much at all. Anything I'm going to write, I have to do right-handed, and that's sloppy and looks pretty bad. But what these are things I can't do. And then when I look at the Helen Kellers, and then when I look at the Lee Campbells, I go, let's look at what I can do. I can write. Like Helen Keller, she did 12 books. I'm above that. I've done more than 12. I've got 14 books out there. I've had 3 published since my accident, well, I'll call it an accident since my shot, and I've got two other ones that one other one that's done. Love, Death, and Cripples, is done. I'm looking for an agent. Then I wrote my memoir about what happened to me, and that's I'm done writing it, but there's a lot of editing I need to do on it. So, but anyway, I write. I can write the stuff. I can work. I still work full time at my job. I work from home. I'm sitting in my office right now, and I'm very successful at it. We have like record collections. Since my paralysis, we have like records. Like every other month or so that we have. So we're breaking records all the time. Thank you to my assistant Sue Johnson Heisler for that. Uh, and so we're breaking records all the time. People try to scam us with like fake, fraudulent credit applications, and I catch those suckers. You can't get by me with that stuff there. I figure out who you are, and sometimes I'll play along with them for a while, just to get their hopes up, thinking that they're going to screw us for tens of thousands of dollars, and then just when they think that they've got me, I'll come back and I'll send them a letter saying you're a wonderful account. Your references were awesome. Your financials are great. Thanks for the personal guarantee. And I knew you were fake from immediately. So just so you know, I turned down your credit, and you can please die. And then I don't hear back from them again. But it felt good to do it. It felt really good to do it. So I catch scammers all the time. They're always trying to get stuff by me. I can play with my dog. I'm in a wheelchair, but he knows he can stick his nut. I can take a treat, stick it between the wheels, and parts and bars of the wheelchair, and hold it up here. Just have fun with it. He can play around my wheelchair. He learned how to do it. And so I'm still here for my dog. I'm still here for my kids. If they ever call, when they call, or if they text me, I'm here. My mother's still alive. Other family members. I'm here. For my family. So I'm not going away. And so it sucks. I'm not what I was. I'm not the person I was physically when this happened to me, and mentally I'm not either, because I have different feelings about things than I did before. Maybe a little more compassion for people that have similar things like this that has happened to them. But damn it, I'm still here, and that's my intent. I'm here, and I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. So if you have any questions, or if you want to check out on my website, it's www.normcowie.com. I'd love it if you check out my books. Go on to the book. You can go into Amazon, and you can read like the beginning of any of my books for free. They've got samples that are in there. Check them out. I have a wild, crazy way of writing a lot of them. So I think if you like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, you'll probably like my books, because they're wild and crazy. So anyway, again, thank you very much for watching and listening, and we're here, and I'm here. So thank you again.